Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode 6 of Mriyaslava. I was thinking it took over 2 years to get 7 episodes of Grunstadt, while here we are with the 6th episode of Mriyaslava in, 6 months, maybe a little bit more. So if you ask me, that's progress. So before we get into the main thing I'm going to be doing in this episode, you might have noticed in that clip just now that our traffic is just absolutely phenomenal right now. There's no problems with it at all, which is why I need to build another interchange. No, it's really bad. And I know I said in the last episode, okay, whatever, fuck cars, we're not going to pay attention to it. But it's still, I realized we just have that one highway connection, off to the west, where the roundabouts are, that the cars are coming into the city. And we had space here where the main road ends, and I figured, well, we might as well connect it back up to the highway. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm building this interchange that will now let us have 2 connections to the city and hopefully reduce the traffic congestion by a little bit. I wonder if you can guess how that ended up working. I don't know, maybe one more lane will fix it. I'm not gonna lie, it's I don't know if I even like this interchange. It ended up looking kind of, I don't even know what you would classify it. It's like a deformed T-style interchange, It's sort of, you take that middle part of the T where, the highway ramps are coming off of, and you just sort of twist it around to connect back to the main road I have here. And it's working fine, but the traffic sort of instantly appeared on it. It's just as bad as on the other highway now. So I think it's still good that we have it, and hopefully in the future with maybe more connections, or just with as the city develops, the traffic will steady out. But yeah, this didn't end up doing that much other than causing some more problems. The benefit of this new road system, though, is that it doesn't take me 3 hours to make this interchange. It took me maybe half an hour, and now that time isn't, I didn't waste as much time if I need to rebuild this in the future, which is, if you've built interchanges in City Skylines 1 before, you know how long they can take sometimes. And I don't think it ended up looking that bad. It looks fine, but there is a chance I might need to redo it in the future or expand it or something. And I'm just grateful that I won't have to undo hours of work. It didn't take that long for this little thing. And one interesting side effect of doing that interchange was that I ended up sort of changing how the tram routes work in the city. Instead of just ending at a terminus and then just switching to the other track and going the other direction, I ended up just looping it around, and this helped with the traffic congestion a little bit, because it was technically a 2-lane road, right? Because you had one lane for the trams on either side, and then you'd have 1 lane for general traffic as well. So I changed it to just a regular 4-lane road. I did the same thing at the other end of the line as well, just so it loops around instead of being a terminus. And at least now I don't have that little, the tracks end here notification, because that was a little bit annoying. In City Skylines 1 we could hide that with the hide all the problems mod or whatever it was called, but here it's always there, so the loop did get rid of that at least. And you might be thinking okay, really, the notifications, who cares? Is it really worth it making a loop just for that? But that's how the city grows. I look at for problems around the city, and I look at what needs to be done. And one of the areas I was looking at was this sort of side district we have to the west, and all these abandoned houses. They were complaining, small homes and lack of entertainment. And I was like, okay, well, what do I do about lack of entertainment? Well, the solution is pretty simple. I don't know if you knew this, but when there's a lack of entertainment, what you can do is you can just build the entirety of Notre Dame 5 meters away from their house, and all the problems will go away. So that's what I did, and it's awesome. Look at it. It's a beautiful building. I love it. And when you zoom out and you look at it in the city, it's this giant cathedral, and it's fantastic. I love it. It's a European city, and it fits it perfectly. It's just so ridiculous that we have Notre Dame here. But again, the way buildings work in City Skylines, they take up rectangular plots, and this was a non-rectangular plot, so I had to make it look less out of place somehow and try to make it fit the shape better. So one of the things I did was just sort of put all these pathways down and make connections where I thought they made sense and where there were sort of paths that kind of ended nowhere. And I did this all around the building, and in some places it works better than others, but I think it ended up being a thing that was worthwhile because it really did do a lot. Like even before I did any landscaping, like you'll see me do in a second, and putting down bushes, like it did a lot to just make that building look like it was made for this area of the city. And one of the ways that I tried to help with that even more was by trying to replicate like the bush patterns they have all around the building. And so I placed down a ton of those and tried to follow the pattern. And in the end, I think it ended up looking pretty good, and it was a fun thing to do. It really did take me back to all those, early City Skylines 1, like vanilla videos I did before we had like prop line tool and stuff that you had to put down all the props by hand. But yeah, no, it was fine, and I'm happy with the result. But speaking of mods, if you're watching this after Monday, March 25th, Paradox Mods is out. Mods are available for the game now, and so I recorded this before the launch of Paradox Mods, so I don't have any, this isn't a modded playthrough yet, but there's going to be stuff coming up, and I'm really excited to sort of see what people come up with. I've already seen a couple good ideas floating around. And I mean, yeah, definitely like a prop line tool and move it, and I guess something like Find It to be able to find props better would be fantastic. And I think that would already do a lot for detailing, which, is kind of absent from the game right now, aside from like putting trees and bushes down. But now with Notre Dame done, this sort of takes me to the main part of this video, which was making this sort of university campus area. Because we have the high schools and everything, we have the college, but there's a lot of demand for university education. So I ended up buying the university, the technical university, which is separate, and the Geological Research Institute as well. I didn't end up using the Geological Institute in this episode, but these university buildings, like they're huge, like they take up a really big chunk of land. So I figured it would be better to prioritize sort of placing these first, and I'll figure out the geological center later. Now, obviously, before I could place anything down, I had to get rid of the existing stuff we had here. This was where we set up the first sort of wind farm and, where we produced power. And it was always a temporary area. I knew we would want to use that for the city eventually. So I'm moving these to the agricultural area for now by the highway. I think we'll end up having to move these again in the future, but for now it seemed like a decent place for them. Now, the existing tiles weren't enough, so I knew I'd have to buy some more. And I bought a little bit more than I need, immediately, just because I think I have a pretty good idea in my head of how I want the city to sort of look in the future. So I tried to plan ahead a little bit and buy this bigger area even past the river. So yeah, I think that after this episode, we might probably like expand the city out to there as well. And one of the other things I wanted to do was to sort of realign this railway track here, because first of all, I wanted to quad track it, I guess. I wanted to put another line right next to it. And also that huge flyover over this like pathetic tiny little river didn't make any sense. So that got changed as well when I did this. And you can really see the difference between that huge flyover and this little like bridge that crosses it as well. This is again just a bit of future proofing. I know that this is going to be like a major rail corridor, so I'm trying to think in advance a little bit. And obviously that now moved the sort of available area down a little bit more. So now I can place the technical university, I think that's what this one is, right up against that rail line. Now, obviously, there is no like campus DLC out for City Skylines 2 yet, like we had for CS1, which, you know, would be fantastic in the future. But I think even for now, these buildings do a great job. Like they're huge, and I love how big they are. And with the upgrades that you can get for them, they'll hopefully look a little bit less empty as well. But even just the sort of parks in them are pretty nice, I think. Now, being a waterfront area, obviously I had to extend the quays that we have along the river to this area as well. And I don't know, I'm a university student, so I was trying to think the whole time, you know, like what would I like to see in a university, at my university, you know, what would be nice? And my university actually has, it's like right next to a canal, and it's really nice. It's awesome having that access. So a big aspect of this build to me was making the area as walkable as possible, and really giving like pedestrians the priority. And I've been doing that throughout the city, you know, everywhere, but I tried to emphasize it here a little bit, you know, with the quays everywhere, and you'll see me putting down a lot of pedestrian paths as well. So this area that I'm building on here is where in a moment you'll see me put down the actual university building, because that one was the technical university. Then there's the university as well, which is separate. And again, it's a pretty nice building. You know, it has a lot of variety and lots of upgrades available, which will hopefully make it look, you know, like a fuller building in the future. Oh, and actually, this clip, I wanted to talk about this clip specifically because you can see there under the 120 meters, like when you're putting down a road, there's a little grade indicator as well, and it shows you the percentage of the grade that's like changing. And I don't think I brought it up in the last videos at all, but I've been using that so much lately. It's such a good indicator of like how flat, you know, the road you're building or the path you're building is. And it's really useful because sometimes even if you're, you know, you said 10 meters and you're building on a hill, it's always going to be 10 meters like above relative to the ground. But the grade indicator is just like absolute, right? So it's like relative to the horizon. So it shows you the change in the grade. And that's been a really useful tool, because I don't think even like precision engineering in City Skylines 1 had that. And on the topic of roads, I had this big area next to where you enter the sort of campus district. I don't know what to call it yet. But and I figured, okay, well, we can put some like nice low rent housing for students here or something. But this area was so tricky for some reason. I couldn't figure it out, you know, because it's shaped very weirdly with that sort of like S-curve we have the main road do. So I couldn't really make like a nice grid. And not only that, but it's not level as well. And I did, you know, I'm trying to minimize the amount of terraforming I have to do, like unless I absolutely need to do it. So I kind of, you know, put something together, and then I just zoned a bunch of different buildings. And honestly, I think that's really the only part of the build I'm really unhappy with, because this sort of area really benefits from being able to pre-place buildings like yourself, to plop them down in like a specific pattern. Or to have buildings that aren't, you know, rectangular and it can fit the shape really well. And I tried to do some stuff later with like parks and stuff and putting pathways between the houses, and it helped a little bit, but it's still, you know, you have the same 5 buildings in one spot, and they're all, you know, some of them are like 2x2 while others are 4x4, and it's really random. So yeah, I'm considering that area sort of temporary for now, and hopefully in the future, once, you know, assets start being released, that's something I can change up manually. Now that aside, at this point I started to think about transit, so I put down a metro station between the two university buildings, and I built our second metro line, so another big milestone for the city. And yeah, right now it's just two stations. It's the train station you see to the right there, and the university station as well. But it's a little bit of future-proofing. Again, we're going to be expanding the city, and that line can be now very easily extended to the north. I rebuilt this portion of the track for Line 1 as well, just so it sort of goes under Line 2, and then I built another connection so trains can actually get from Line 2 to Line 1 and vice versa. And what's interesting, what I was also thinking about is in City Skylines 1, you would have to do like a Y interchange. So you'd have to have this connection going to the left, and then you'd have to have another connection going to the right. But here, the new train AI is smart enough that it knows it can just go to that station as a terminus, then switch tracks and go to Line 2. So I thought that was pretty interesting that the trains can do that now, because it saves you on cost a little bit, right? You don't have to build another tunnel just for getting the trains in a different direction. And now I mentioned earlier that I put down a lot of pedestrian paths, and I wasn't kidding. I really did put a lot of those. If you've ever been on a walk and you're you're walking and there's like a T intersection up ahead, right? The path goes to the left and to the right. And then you look in the corner and there's this little faint trail that sort of cuts diagonally through that corner. Instead of going all the way forward and then turning right on the path, you just sort of cut across to go to the right. That's me. I'm the guy who's making that path. I'm always trying to go like the hypotenuse, the most efficient route. And so I tried to kind of account for that here, making those, I guess they're called desire paths, and just trying to make it as walkable for the citizens as possible, just being able to go where you want to go in the most convenient amount of time. And so I have a lot of these like diagonal paths here that instead of just having that one node that all the paths connect to, you can cut across to another path. So I don't know. I hope the citizens appreciate it, I guess. And with the two banks of the river being so close, I made sure to, of course, put down some bridges as well, just so you don't have to go all the way around. You can just get across very easily. And I put down this like arched pedestrian bridge as well, which I thought looked really nice. And it's a nice connection for the people who live sort of on this corner near the park. Somebody asked me, like, why is this really necessary if we have the two like street bridges as well? And no, yeah, technically it's not 100% necessary. Like, they can walk to the bridges over there, but if we have the money, why not? It makes it convenient for some more people. And hey, I mean, it just looks cool. It looks nice. Sometimes that's all you need. Anyways, that pretty much covers it for this video. So, yeah, I think we did a lot, and I'm happy with the progress that we're making and how the city is growing. So, I hope to see you guys in the next episode very soon. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.